Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are starting on the repairs on our cheap $6,000 2015 Subaru Outback 2.5i Premium. In today's video, we're going to be replacing our hub bearing assembly on the driver's front, replacing our driver's front CV axle, and likely replacing both of our front CV axle seals. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the repairs. Now that we got the car jacked up and supported on jack stands, go ahead and knock the wheel off. Of course, over torque lug nuts, and when I'm cross-threaded, good thing we get new studs with our new hub bearing assembly, and good thing I've got lots of extra lug nuts laying around for Subarus. So now that we got the wheel and tire off, we can go ahead and knock our CV axle nut off, which is 32 millimeter. Go ahead and check and see if our axle is stuck in the hub. It is not, it moves freely. So then we can take and knock loose 12 millimeter here, brake line bolt at the strut, and on the back side of our hub, two 17 mil bolts holding the brake caliper bracket on. Get those two 17s out of the way and swing our brake caliper bracket, and our pads out of our way. And yep, our pads are about brand new. So good news there. Now we can hang that off of our strut, or off of our spring up here. Careful not to bind up that brake line. Now we can pull our brake rotor off. Set that to the side. Probably going to go ahead and knock this dust shield off, just so I can see better and show you guys better. So we can basically get in here and remove our hub assembly now, but as I said, we're going to do axle as well. Now, according to the factory service manual on the 15 model and newer, they want you to go through and take loose your outer tie rod end, the strut bolts here, sway bar end link, and fold this down and around to give the room to get the axle out of the hub and pull the axle out. Well, I'm going to try to shortcut that and go the way we could on the older models by removing the pinch bolt for the ball joint, knocking the ball joint loose, and then swinging the assembly over. Should be able to do that. I'm not sure why they changed it in the service manual to take all this loose, where you got to mark this caster bolt so you don't throw your alignment off, but we're going to go through and see if we can sneak it out that way. But first we need to take a 10 and pull the ABS wheel speed sensor out so we don't damage it when pulling the hub out and pulling out the axle. I'm going to reach up here and push the tabs in that are holding the wheel speed sensor wiring. So we unplug it, or unbolt it from the spindle there. We can get it out of the way. And then overboard, put 4 clips on there instead of 2. Pull that 10 out and pull out our wheel speed sensor. We'll set that up here in the spring perch on top of the strut. Now we'll pull the 14 out for the pinch bolt on the ball joint. And again, see if we can give ourselves enough room to work down here. Pulled that pinch bolt out of there. Kind of wish I had a new one to put in there. This one is kind of rusty, but I've seen far, far worse. Grab a pry bar. If you ever find yourself stuck, normally it's because you don't have a long enough pry bar. So got our ball joint freed up, and now we can try to swing that hub and spindle around and get our axle out. Looks like the reason they told us we couldn't do that is because we really can't. There's not very much maneuverability in here of this strut assembly like the older ones. Although, we did get her out. So, got our axle kicked off to the side. Hear a little bit of noise in this hub assembly. Not as bad as what I thought going down the road. But, we'll go ahead and put our new hub assembly in, get this one knocked out, and go ahead and pop our old axle out. So we've got our brand new hub assembly here. It is a Subaru part number 28373AN00D. Got 4 14mm headed bolts on the back side here. Go ahead and whip those out. All right, with those 4 out, we should just be able to pull our hub out. Might have to give it a couple taps because it is a little rusty in here, but nothing too terrible. So here's something we haven't tried in a while, and this Lyle 4100, I believe, hub puller. Let's see if it works on this car. Almost need 3 hands, but it is pulling it off. That there ought to have her just like so. Good job, Lyle. That was actually a lot easier than other methods. A little hesitant to push against some of these spots, but I mean, this thing is steel and held up pretty fine. we'll put a link in the description of the video for those of you interested in the Lyle hub puller. So even though this car was a quote-unquote southern car, it did spend time close enough to the North Carolina mountains that it did acquire some rust. Not horrible, but there is some. And yeah, crusty. So try to knock out however many studs I can stay from there that's not screwed up, and we'll get a brush, clean this up, and get ready to pop out this old axle from the front diff and get this thing all back together. All right, guys, now we can slide under here and pop out the old axle. Or I can try to slide my big butt up under here. And axle is knock free. Carefully slide her out. So now that we got our axle out, we can go ahead and pop out the old axle seal, pop a new one in. So I got the old axle seal popped out. You just catch the inside lip here with a pry bar and pull. Now on these, there is a right and there is a left. It depends on what direction those little fins are pointing, so make sure you put the right one on the right side. But all we gotta do, like I said, you just put a screwdriver or a pry bar under this inside lip, pull, it'll pop itself out. Then you take an install tool like this that just fits the outside diameter of the seal and tap it in until it's flush. And our new seal is installed. It wasn't leaking before, but 230,000 miles, we got the axle out. Might as well put a new seal in it, because of my luck, we'd get it back together and it'd start leaking right afterwards. So with the new seal, like I said, you can use one of those install tools, or you can get one of these, which is a seal driving drift or punch. It's got a nice smooth rounded edge on it where you can tap all the way around the seal and make sure it's nice and flush. Either way, whichever works for you. And part number on our CV axle is a 28321AL010. Compare the new and the old axle. Grab a brand new axle and carefully slide it home. Don't want to booger up our brand new axle seal there. So line it up and slam it home. So all you gotta do, just ram it in there until that clip clips in, and you have hardly any gap between the differential and the axle. And just to show you, that's fully seated right there. All right, so now we can swing our brake caliper assembly back to the other side out of our way. Grab our new hub assembly. Gone through here and cleaned all the crusty rustiness out. Put a little bit of light oil in there. Put this back together. We can get our bolts lined up. Get them started, and we'll use our bolts to cinch it on down, pull it into the bore. Then we will grab our torque wrench for our final torquing of the bolts. And just like that, new hub is in, and we'll grab our torque wrench, and do our final torque on these. We'll pop that ball joint out again and swing our new CV axle into the hub. Torque wrench is set to 65 Newton meters. And all set. So now we can knock that ball joint back out. But no match for the big blue. Got that free. Now we can swing this back around. All right, now that is out of our way, swing our axle in here. Just like so. Realign our ball joint with the bottom of the spindle. Hammer that ball joint back up in there. Just like so. We'll take our ball joint pinch bolt and reinstall it. Torque our pinch bolt to 50 Newton meters. And good. Our wheel speed sensor back into place. Just like so. Now we'll throw our dust shield into place. Now we can put our brake rotor back into place. And note that I cleaned all the corrosion off the face of the brake rotor, also cleaned the corrosion off of the rear mating surface of the brake rotor. So that is all good now. Might want to hit it with a little bit of brake parts cleaner just to be on the safe side. Looks like my can's empty. All right, brake clean refilled. Spray off our rotors, our rotor. Grab our caliper assembly and swing that back down into place. And grab our caliper bracket bolts. Go ahead and put our 12 Back end up here, holding the brake line. And we need to torque our caliper bracket bolts and put a new CV axle nut on, torque it and stake it. All right, got our new CV axle nut. I'll go ahead and thread that on by hand. Got to torque the brake caliper bracket bolts back here to 120 Newton meters. And now we need to torque our CV axle nut to 220 Newton meters. You have to put something in here to lock the wheel up while we torque it. And 220. I just got to stake our nut. Roll her around. And nut is staked. All good to go. Got to just put the wheel on and we'll be done. All right, guys, and that does it. All you got to do is torque your lug nuts to 120 Newton meters, put it down, and we are good to go. Got our hub bearing replaced, got our new CV axle in, and got our new axle seal in. That'll do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.